Hi, my name is Todd Cole, and today I'd like to speak to you on some children's books that are about children with special needs. Now, we all have special needs, but these might be children with a physical disability or a mental issue that I wanted to showcase in these books. The first one is Greta Thunberg, Our House is on Fire, the story of a teenage girl who's really made a difference with climate change and bringing it to the forefront, not just in her country, but across the world. And she is on the spectrum. So I just thought it was important to talk about how someone who might have some challenges is making a huge difference because of what she believes in. So Our House is on Fire, Greta Thunberg's Call to Save the Planet. This one, What Happened to You? And it's by James Catchpole and Karen George. And it's the story of a boy who is born without a leg. And everyone that sees him comes up to him and says, "What happened to you?" And he was getting tired of people looking at his leg first, or his loss of leg, and not looking at who he was. And so he would say, "Do I ask you, why are you bald?" We don't. So why do we keep on asking him about his leg? And so he makes that point to all his friends, and then eventually they do look beyond it. Listen to this. Every time Joe goes out, the questions are the same. What happened to your leg? But is this even a question Joe has to answer? A groundbreaking, funny story that helps children understand what it might feel like to be seen as different. You Are Enough, a book of inclusion inspired by the Sophia Sanchez. And it's written by Margaret O'Hare and illustrated by Sophia Sardoso. And it's a story of a girl who has Down syndrome, and she grows up to be a model, or she is a model. So she inspires kids who have Downs and kids who don't have Downs as a reminder that we can do anything we want to do. The next two are by Mr. Rogers, The Extraordinary Friends. Let's talk about extraordinary friends. And you can see the boy is in a wheelchair. And what I like about both of these, the next one coming up is Who Am I? They are real photographs of real people, whereas the first two books I spoke of are illustrations, paintings or drawings of people. These are real kids with real situations. And so I think it brings it home to all those who are reading. And on the back, how do you get to know someone in a wheelchair? Sometimes it's hard to know where to begin. But just because someone may not walk or talk the way that you do, that doesn't mean you can't be friends. In his characteristically wise and gentle way, Mr. Rogers challenges the stereotypes that often plague children with special needs and celebrates 6 children who are extraordinary friends. The one that I just mentioned, also by the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood, is about a girl who's seen throughout the whole story and on different pages doing different things, like playing baseball or catch, or reading with a grandfather, or swinging on a swing. But all the way through, she has a hearing aid. And it's never addressed that she has a hearing aid. So that's a message that's silent, that maybe the parent can speak to the child who is reading it with him or her about, hey, did you notice anything that was special about this girl? I wear hearing aids too. And that's one of the first things I show my students, even in college, that I wear hearing aids and that they'll have to speak up. But it wasn't an issue with all the things that she was doing throughout the story. And so it wasn't addressed very much like this boy didn't want his leg to be the center of why you're my friend. Six Dots, a story of young Louis Braille. And it's the story of the boy who became blind because he was in his father's carpentry room and he was told not to play with the tools, and he did. And eventually he hurt his eye with one of the tools, and then they took him to the doctor and they put medicine in it and patched it, and they said, "Don't touch your eye." And he did, and he scratched it, and eventually it became infected, and then the infection went to the other eye too, and he became blind as a child. And then he's the one that invented Braille. So he also was a conductor and a composer of music. He did many other things. But this is the story of how Braille came to be. And it's by Jem Bryant, and she lives on the other side of Pennsylvania. Great lady. She writes about people that we may not know the story behind them and wants us to know about them. She'd be a great author to have visit your school. We're All Wonders, and this is the children's book that goes along with the novel just called Wonder. And I think every child before they leave sixth grade should read Wonder. And then this is The Partner, but it's a children's picture book that goes with the story of a boy who was born with many facial issues, and he looked very different than the rest, and what he went through in school with some bullies and then those who befriended him, and eventually it took years for him to be accepted. He became one of the most popular people in the school, and he won a big award at the end of the school year. The Map Challenge, a book about dyslexia. And it just explains what dyslexia is. And let me bring up this one too. Thank You, Mr. Fulker by Patricia Polacco. And it's a true story about her life as a fifth grader. She had trouble reading all the way up to fifth grade. But it was because of Mr. Fulker, her fifth grade teacher, that she found out she had dyslexia. And from then on, well, look, she's one of the most popular multicultural children's writers and illustrators in the country, if not the world. So dyslexia is explained in both of these books. This is my last book that I want to speak of, All the Way to the Top, How One Girl's Fight for Americans with Disabilities Changed Everything. And this is the story of the girl. Jennifer may be small, but her voice is mighty. Nothing will stop her. And what does she do? She crawls up the steps of the Capitol in Washington, D.C. She gets out of her wheelchair and crawls up all those steps because she wants to be there when they pass the law. A true story of a little girl who just wanted to go, even when others tried to stop her. Jennifer Keelan Caffins never wanted her wheelchair to slow her down, but the world around her was built in a way that made it hard for people with disabilities to do even simple things like go to school or eat lunch in the cafeteria. When the Americans with Disabilities Act was proposed to Congress to make public spaces accessible to everyone, Jennifer joined activists in Washington, D.C. for what became known as the Capitol Crawl. At the steps of the Capitol building, without her wheelchair, she climbed all the way to the top. What a story. And I'm sharing this also during the month of March because it's National Women's Month, right? And so sharing special stories of women who have made a difference. So hats off to her. Here ends my salute to people with special needs, reminding us all that we all have special needs. Some are more visible than others, and we can always use a story to celebrate how they have achieved and overcome some of their special needs. Thanks for listening.